Welcome everyone. I hope you enjoyed the lunch and will not fall asleep. So we will make sure that this is an interactive session with some insights on how to apply process intelligence. I'm Piotr Kocot. I'm PwC partner specializing in assurance and finance transformation services for GBSs. And our part, PwC part of today's presentation will be led by Mariusz Walkiewicz, PwC director with an expertise in process intelligence. And we will, of course, present our consultant's perspective. But in order to provide you with an independent GBS point of view, we have invited our colleagues from Philip Morris International, Jacek, Bujas, Digital Transformation Manager, and Krzysztof Znaleziony, Head of Digital Transformation, both representing, as I said, PMI from Kraków. Just for the sake of transparency, PwC is an auditor of PMI, but we do not cooperate in area of process intelligence. So this part is fully independent. Our selection of the process intelligence topic for today's session is actually a result of discussions with you. So a lot of GBSs reached maturity stage that is advanced enough to enable you and sometimes require you to automate, to find efficiencies, to absorb new processes and to become more efficient as an organization. And based on the studies that were recently done, automation is one of the key motivation for the heads of centers, and the key blocker for automation is lack of standardization. And process intelligence seems to be a very good tool, a great opportunity to begin your journey towards standardization. And our presentation will last around 25 up to 30 minutes. Overall, we have 40, so we will leave enough space for questions. And I encourage you to ask questions. They will be more than welcome, and I would like to encourage a good discussion afterwards. And now I hand over to Mariusz.
Okay, hello everyone. So before we jump into process intelligence, let me tell you why it's important for us. So the issue is with the expectation versus reality. So in our real world, I assume all of you has at least once a situation where you ordered something on internet, but what you have received was slightly different from what you have expected. It was too big, too small, not the right color, not the right quality. Or for example, probably you haven't expected this weather outside when you booked your flights a month ago. So the same applies to the business processes. The expectation is different than the reality. And why is that? Because the processes are designed at the beginning with the purpose to be stable, to be compliant with, and you believe that everything will be working according to what you expect. But as the businesses are evolving, the processes are changing. As you are implementing new systems, the processes are changing. Finally, there are some exceptions which need to be somehow handled. So there is again another path how this or that process should be transformed. And finally, the people tend to look for the shortcuts, like the guy on the picture. Yeah. So instead of using the standard pre-designed pavement, he's doing his own shortcut, because that's how people behave. Okay. So we know that we need to check our processes because they are changing. Yeah? So our ultimate goal is to understand how they are doing, to be able to answer the question, are they optimal or do they need any changes? So how to analyze the process? So there is this traditional approach of performing the workshops with the process owners, doing some one-to-one interviews and listening what the people are telling us. The question is, are they telling all the truth? Maybe they don't know everything. Maybe they want to hide something from us. Of course, we can do the inspection. We can take 10, 20, 50, or even 100 items, like tickets or invoices and see how they were processed throughout the systems. But even 100 invoices is nothing when in real life you have hundreds of thousands of invoices being processed on a yearly basis. And finally, you can check the process description, the procedures. But as we said, the processes are changing so rapidly that the procedures might not be up to date. So that's why there is this alternative, and use process intelligence or process mining. How does it work? So the idea is to extract all the data from the source systems, all the historical data, link them together. Of course, sometimes it requires to involve some experts to get the right data from right places. And then finally use dedicated tools which allows us to analyze these huge amounts of data. So what we gain here is for sure objectivity, because we are not relying on what the people are telling us, because we have the full reality, the full picture of reality from a month, from a year, or even 5 years, depending on how far you want to reach with the analysis. And this is complete, because we are not using samples, but we are using the full populations. So instead of having a sample of 50, we have a full population of, let's say, 100,000 tickets being processed. Okay, so this is theory. So how does it look in practice? So let's imagine we have the P2P, purchase to pay process, which should be familiar to you. So generally it's a common process in every organization that starts from some business needs, so-called purchase requisition. Then the buyer creates purchase order, and then sooner or later the goods are received, the invoice being settled and paid. Okay, so very often we do the analysis of this process. So few examples what we found out while analysis. So first of all, we have identified that 50% of the purchase orders were created after the actual receival of the invoice, which is, of course, which may happen, and it was not a surprise to our client that this happens, because when you receive the invoice from the electricity, for example, you don't make the purchase order beforehand, in general. But the problem was the scale, so 50% of such cases occurred, which was already a red flag for the client, because this procedure was used by the teams who were not supposed to have this way of processing of invoices. What was even worse, we found out that smart users found a way and created a script that automatically did a bulk insert of hundreds of invoices, and in the same time, the next second, it created automatically the same 100 purchase orders in the system. So generally, that was not what was intended by the process owner. Or we have a step called change price. It happens, because sometimes the invoice has different price than the original purchase order. That is normal. But in this case, during this step in the process, the people were allowed to change the quantity, which is again okay from the perspective of the process, but the issue here was that it was not originally intended, it was not blocked in by the system, and doing changes at this stage resulted in some problems with synchronization of this data with other modules of the system, and then affecting the production plans. Or in the same case, we found out that there were multiple changes of the prices just below the threshold of approval. And you may think of this as some sort of a fraud, but it was not perceived as a fraud by the people who did it. But what they wanted to do, again, they wanted to introduce a shortcut, because they knew that the approval process would take very, very long time. So to speed it up, they changed the price so that the approval was not required. And finally, during this analysis, because as I said, we are extracting the data from the source system, so we have, for example, information about who performed each of the single activity. So we were able to derive the conclusion that there is something wrong with the segregation of duties, that one person can both create a purchase order and book a good receipt in the system, yeah? Which again was not something that was intended by the process owner, yeah? The clear segregation of duties issue. Okay, and frankly, that was the nice picture, yeah, with the so-called happy path. So how the standard process would look like. But generally, always, really always, no matter which process we are analyzing, we are starting from that. It is called spaghetti diagram. So this is how many cases in reality you can face in your systems. Okay, so you may ask where to use it, yeah? Where can we use this approach? So generally the answer is everywhere, but the only thing is that we need to have a digital footprint, yeah? So the idea is that whenever we have a process that is somehow locked in the systems, then you can extract the data and do the process mining analytics. So this can apply to both standard processes like P2P, O2C, or specific processes like hire to retire, or in the financial sector like loan application or insurance premiums. And of course, in your world, in the world of GBSs, you are process driven, so everything is processed. I assume 99% of data are somewhere stored. So this is the good way that you can replace the standard traditional way of analyzing data. Okay, so we discussed what it is, where this can be used, so how to apply it. So there are alternatives. So on the left-hand side, this is my world of consultant who is doing these exercises as a one-off exercises. So whenever the client is approaching us and telling, please do the health check of my process. So we do this one-off X-ray of the process. We extracting the data. We are doing the analysis. We are discussing with the clients our thoughts. Okay, some of them might probably be false positives because we don't know exactly how your processes work. But generally, working together, we are able to quickly derive the interesting red flags and give the recommendation how to fix them, how to automate them. And very often this approach is also used as a proof of concept, of proof of value of this kind of analysis. Yeah? Because sometimes you maybe think of it as okay, so it's probably innovative, but we don't know what value that could bring us. So instead of doing the full-scale implementation, you want to have this single shot, do the one process analysis, and then check if this really gives you the value. And the alternative to this approach is building your own internal capability, and that's why we have Krzysztof and Jacek, who will tell you how it looks from the internal perspective.
Hello, my name is Krzysiek. We'll take you through PMI journey. I don't know if you are aware what is PMI. So Philip Morris International, we are producing IQOS, first of all. And second, we are also known for Marlboro and other cigarette brands. We have our shared service center in Krakow, where we have like a few thousand people. But we are not only in Krakow, because we have also location in other parts of the world. So before I will go there, let's say about process mining and our journey, I just want you to have this kind of picture in mind, because we are a global organization, and our journey, even though it's shown as an internal capability, is truly global. And we are also using other partners and also, let's say, consultancy like PwC, although with PwC we are not currently working on this, to experiment and find out more. So our evolution actually started in 2018 with this big promise, okay, let's find more automation. And this was, let's say, the use case we kicked in. You can be surprised we didn't find that much actually at the very beginning. And since the very beginning, let's say, we were aware that, okay, there is like a potential in that, but probably it will not come as that fast as it may sound or look like in the first glance. There was like a very strong use case in corporate audit, because you can imagine, let's say, if you can scan everything, you can find, let's say, different things from the audit perspective very quickly. And to be very frank, one of the still strong or pillar of our Celonis or process mining composition is corporate audit. And they are happy with that, they continue to use it, and they don't consider to replace it actually, because this gives them the advantage. But what we did, since then we are trying to build more and more use cases, process-specific, sometimes POVs, POCs perspective actually, for the business to prove that there is something they can dig deeper and find out more. And this is something what you'll learn in a moment, because what you can see, we have today like a 300 users trained. So it's not just our COE owning this and we have like a product management around it and so on, but we want to democratize it. But democracy comes with a framework here, right? So there are certain things you can allow, there are things you cannot do as well. We have, out of this 300, we have maybe 70 which are people who are actively using this on a daily basis, right? So for different purposes, as you can see on the left side, and if I'm too fast, maybe also tell me to slow down, but you can see that, okay, we have corporate audit, purchase to pay, lead to cash, tax, AP, and so on. So this is the place where those people are sitting, actually. In corporate audit, to be very frank, we have maybe 2 key users, right? But they do the job actually for the rest. So they can give the advantage, let's say, for the whole corporate audit department worldwide to use this capability. We have community of practice, obviously, and we are leveraging on 3 data models today. We need more, for sure, because this is something where we are actually pivoting, and Jacek will tell you about our pivot, because when we were sharing similar story like 6 months ago together with our PwC colleagues, our standing position was a little different. In a moment, you will learn how we are actually pivoting and what is the difference to go. Before I will pass to Jacek, I would just wanted to also draw one more picture, a bit bigger, because I'm heading digital COE, and actually from broader perspective, this is very relevant to have such a capability like process mining, but it doesn't stand alone, to be very honest. It's a part of our digital ecosystem, and you can see on the, starting from the left side, we have so-called automation factory. You will not see RPA there. Maybe surprise, surprise, we are resigning actually from RPA. We are moving much more to the platforms like Power Automate, RoboCorp, and so on. We have digital adoption, also key element for us in the future, because one thing is that, okay, people have the assets, we have beautiful digital solution, but are the people using this in the right way? Can we help them actually to adopt better? Because we did invest dollars into the software, and right now we see sometimes not the right usage. This is a strong case, especially if this WalkMe, SAP Enable Now, and this kind of solutions, especially for outside, for our retailers, when we sell in our stores and so on. That's why I mentioned, let's say, ICOS in the very beginning, one of our key products, but also from inside, especially from the SAP perspective. BPNN, we will talk in a moment. And last but not least is also knowledge management and whole service enablement ecosystem. We build it around Salesforce with portals, with CRM, knowledge management, and others. So this picture gives you, let's say, the understanding of where we are able actually to move from the process mining fairly quickly and easily, because this is connected, and this allows us actually to act upon the revelations we are going to find in process mining. Okay? With that, let me give it voice to the expert, to Jacek.
Okay, thank you, Krzysztof. I have the next slide, please. Okay, so as Krzysztof said, we operate in a form of an ecosystem, and the ecosystem has both internal and external components. The internal one is like everything that we do in our company. External is like partners and vendors. And in this ecosystem, we go towards operational excellence, and process excellence is like something underpinning that. And so there is a process development or process life cycle. We start with the design, deployment, standardization, harmonization, and improvement. We selected 2 different tool sets, although some capabilities of those tools overlap. So for the early stages of process evolution, of process lifecycle, we use Signavio. This is mainly for design and deployment of processes. So we document, we do process maps, we manage process repository, and so on and so forth. Then, when the process is fully deployed and when we go to the standardization phase, we get access to the system data, so the digital footprint. And then we can actually plug in process mining, and we can do the insights and the intelligence to work towards process harmonization and also process improvement. Actually, we have created this as a service. So in order to fulfill the demand, the ongoing and growing demand in our organization, we created this as a service, and this is actually a combined service. So we started with process mining, and in a moment I will show you the service catalog, but we also have a process modeling. So this is like 2 layers of the services. And this is the service catalog. If you go online, for example, on celonis.com, and you see how they describe their systems, the execution management system, it has 3 layers. So there is the lowest layer, it's the data and technology. The next layer is analytics, and the 3rd layer, the top one, is the execution. And this is actually where there is like most benefits. And so we started with the lowest part. If you look at the service catalog, the first 3 elements are sequential. So we first need to enable technology and data ingestion. Then we need to develop capabilities. So we need to teach people how to use the technology and how to actually generate benefit out of that. And the 3rd, it's actually the first layer, so that the data. We take the data, we create spaghetti diagrams, and we can start analyzing and taking some actions out of it. And the spaghetti diagram, so like Variant Explorer, is just a very basic thing. But it's necessary. Task mining is something like, on top of that. It is not like essential part of process discovery. But then once these 3 elements are fulfilled and deployed, we can take it to the next level, so the analytics. And this is kind of a tricky thing, because we've done a lot of analytics work. We created a number of analyses for the business. And that somehow created a perception that, this is process mining. This is actually the middle layer. And now when we go to business, we want to offer them something more. They are surprised, saying, hey, we already do process mining, so what else do you want to offer us? And so the next thing is the execution. So for process monitoring, we do like dashboards, alerts, simulations, predictions. So these things that can be like predefined and built and can be used on an everyday basis. So people who supervise the processes, they can monitor KPIs, they can monitor where deviations happen, and they immediately can take actions.
Maybe let me add one sentence here, because to those, especially who were yesterday, there was one of the presentation talking about the tax automation, I remember. There is like a tax compliance and so on. What we are actually doing here is we are much more proactive with Celonis, because we can more online detect actually that people are posting with the wrong tax code, notify them that probably the tax code you have used is wrong, and please correct it online, rather than do it after the month and closing and so on. So this is much more bringing us to the closer to the actually of the event when it happened, and then we can intervene and influence the user.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And so the last component in our service catalog, it's actually execution. You can see execution apps or analytics apps. Execution apps, so this is like the essence of the execution management system, plus the action flows. So this is where actually the system can make some actions, can take some decisions based on the logics built in, and that actually makes the biggest improvement in the process. And everything that we are presenting here is based on our experience. So we don't know if this is the best way. This is just our way. And we often look at what we have done so far, and we take lessons learned. So there are some key components to make process mining in a company successful. So first of all, it's to find the right target, so to apply it where it makes most sense. And so the question is, where does it make most sense? It is typically most successful in the environments, in the companies or business units that are high volume, highly transactional, and standardized. Standardization is a very important prerequisite. If there is a lack of standardization, process mining will not be as efficient as it could be.
And maybe just to also complement to this POC, POV perspective, actually, you can be surprised at how many POVs, POCs we still run. It doesn't mean that this was just one set in the stone and we are just repeating or using. Actually, we are right now having like maybe 7 in the last quarter, actually to prove, check quickly and move. Making sense, not making sense, and move, and so on. So this is the way how actually we are operating in many cases, let's say, to evidence that the value is there for the particular business line and perspective they are looking for.
Yes. Another thing is to expand the usage of process mining in the company. Once people see that there is a success in one part of the organization, they want to replicate it. So on one hand, this demand is self-stimulating, but on the other hand, a very crucial factor is senior management support. And I mean like very senior management. And it cannot be just like a buy-in and a green light to go. It needs to be like an ongoing message and ongoing support reinforced, because that actually requires a long-term engagement of people from different parts of the organization. So if there is not enough support from the senior leadership, there is always this kind of resistance and pushback from the business. And I will anticipate one question. So like, what's the value of process mining? How much are you making out of it? My favorite answer is millions. But the question is how many millions? No, I'm kidding, because it is really hard to quantify. If you go on Znaleziony.com, they have a page with customer credentials and testimonies, and many companies say that they make like 190 millions, $200 million out of process mining. And it is doable. I mean, yeah, that's how much value you can generate in large size entities through proper process mining. But the thing is that it is really incomparable. I mean, it's like not comparing apples to apples. When you deploy process mining and you improve a process, you eliminate waste and streamline it, make it like working faster. Typically, you can reduce some headcount. You can eliminate, you can reduce some FTE and the workload that is spent on process execution. But that's only like the very primary benefit. When the process is faster, there are other implications. So, for example, DSO can be reduced, so it has impact on cash flow. Of course, like cost reduction on FTE and cash flow impact, it's really hard to put like into one number. Or, for example, if we improve a process and we avoid delayed payments, then we have some gains on discounts, like for early payments and things like that. So there are so many benefits that are hard to compare and hard to put into one number, and they are of a different nature. So if I give you one figure, it wouldn't be meaningful. There has to be like a proper breakdown and explanation what kind of value we generate. And it is important to engage business, because the knowledge about processes is amongst those people who on everyday basis execute the process and deliver. So that is why we've created a community of practice, and this is something that I would recommend to anyone who thinks seriously about process mining and doing process mining in a company, because I see that this is very much stimulating the adoption of process mining. So on one hand, it's the knowledge that we share with the business side. On the other hand, they also provide us with a lot of intelligence and a lot of knowledge on how to improve the processes. And technology is an enabler, but I think the mindset is more important. So these are like, technology is fairly easy. It costs money, of course, and it takes time to deploy it. But once you have it, it's there and you can use it. But working on the mindset in the company is an ongoing work. People come and go. They change their points of view. Communication, training, awareness. This is one of the key factors, I would say, in successful process mining. Is that all we have?
I guess we covered it all. Now time for the question, actually, to four of us.
So I would be interested, is there any alternative to Celones? This would be my first question.
Yeah, some. No, there's at least 4 big players, maybe 7 you can find easily.
Okay, I assume with less license cost.
It depends on the contract.
Okay.
Yeah, the cost is not the only factor. Some time ago, I did a research in the market, and I found 42 different vendors of process mining solutions. But process mining solutions are like something from small scale, something that can do like event log and can show you the spaghetti diagram, and that's it. And there are some solutions that offer you a whole portfolio of additional features, additional functionalities that actually generate value. So of course you can buy something small, something low cost, and you can deploy it, but also the benefits that it would generate out of it are quite limited. So this is kind of proportional.
And the second question goes in the reporting direction. Like you said, you have this spaghetti diagram. Is there any other possibility how these reports look like? You know, are they can they be customized? Like you have a possibility with Power BI or whatever. This would be like a very, because you have to digest the information you have, and this would be interesting for me to know.
Yes. There is the whole reporting interface in Celonis, but also in other tools. So spaghetti diagram is just a graphical representation of how the process works. Then behind it you have the whole set of data, information about who did what and when, and like timestamps and values. So you can create really robust reports like dashboards. You can see like purchase orders or like invoices. You can check like three-way match. You can have a dashboard that is checking invoices and checking for duplicates. It's quite a good case. Celonis offers a component, an app, that is analyzing invoices and searching for duplicates. So for the companies that receive like thousands of invoices daily or monthly, it is fairly common that sometimes invoices are duplicated due to late payment or due to some error, or it may be simply a payment fraud. Someone wants to get money twice, right? So Celonis can scan these invoices, can compare certain fields like invoice number, date, vendor, PO number, and then can highlight potential duplicates, or if it is configured intelligently, it can find the duplicates and eliminate them.
And just to complement from the reporting side, it really depends what's the purpose of this report, right? So if you want to drill down, then maybe Celonis space is better. But we are also using Power BI, and we do dashboard, and we actually connect both. So it really depends on the purpose behind you use particular reporting piece.
Yeah, from my perspective, while doing this one-off scans, so the recommendation we have, some of them are long-hanging fruits, yeah. So you just implement some changes in the policies, or you are introducing some changes in the system, yeah. But sometimes you are saying, okay, we are fine with this kind of situation, but we need to monitor them. And based on as an outcome, you are creating some KPIs which you can monitor in the other tools like Power BI you mentioned, and also in Power BI even there are some additional visualization that might allow you to do these diagrams, like the one delivered by Celonis, which is, by the way, considered as a Mercedes from the process mining perspective. Yeah.
Hello. How do you convince a decision maker that you should do process mining without having specific evidence of a business case, positive business case, prior to the decision?
I will take this one because this is historical fact. Actually, corporate audit started that. So they found it on the market like 2017 maybe or something, and they started using this. So they had actually the money, and it was okay to use it. Then we built like a business case for the automation and built on this actually narrative. It helped actually to find some automation and so on. When you saw these examples, when we are applying this is purchase to pay. Actually, this is the place where you have plenty of the automations in the end, right? So this is how the story begins. So if you have such a important corporate player, like corporate audit, who needs something, then it's easy to place a seed. And then from there, we are growing the plant.
Or from my perspective, you can do this, one-off exercise without taking the cost of the tools and without skilling up the people. And based on that, you can see that if there is value or not. And if you are fine with the results and you think that this is worth monitoring on a continuously basis, then you have a business case to implement it.
Yes, and the way how I do it, I mean, I often go across the company soliciting for process mining. So I talk to business representatives and I offer them proof of concept or proof of value. So a small scale project on a sample of data to show what process mining can do for them, what kind of value we can generate. These are relatively low cost, so I do this within my small center of expertise. We do not require additional licenses. There is no big deployment. And usually after several weeks, I have enough evidence to convince them. The data stands behind it.
This is very true. In fact, partners are very helpful in this because we have multiple partners, right? So they are also understanding the technology. They're helping actually to find the right cases, etc. So this is the case how we are actually exploring this in PMI.
But Krzysztof, to this point, and to bounce back on this point, you give me an impression, so first you have the tool somewhere at group level, so you have something available in a toolbox somewhere that you leverage, very smart, yeah? But this type, and I'm convinced, but this type of approach, either you have a small group of believers, yeah, and will get traction, or you will need somewhere to convince within your own governance a number of people, a number of body in order to be able to, yeah, to move it to the next level, to continue to invest, blah, blah, blah. And my question is, have you leveraged this in order to either internally create some productivity savings, process improvement, automation, quality improvement, or are you already at the next stage where you can offer a number of products to your clients, so not internally, but external client, by leverage Celonis? Are you already at that level?
Yes, we have recently entered to that level. That's why I presented the service catalog to you. So our internal clients, we are part of the GBS. So GBS are our internal clients. External clients would be operations and other parts of the organization. So this is already a service, an official service, and we offer it across PMI. So yes.
Okay, maybe I will explain the operating model. We are like an internal organization for PMI, so our clients are our markets, let's say, or the functions. So the example Jacek brought is like our manufacturing team who is thinking about the product life cycle. So how does it long take from R&D to market the product? And we found out that with procurement, we are spending way too much time actually on making the product. So they are digging right now into the procurement space because later on marketing and selling and commercialization is fairly fast. But before that, until we'll reach this product itself, it's taking them a moment. We are not selling this outside. We didn't spin off. Maybe one day we'll spin off and start selling this because we have the capabilities, and I am absolutely confident of what we built inside is really precious. And the knowledge Jacek and the team possess, and the other teams I also showing on the presentation, are actually going to work in this kind of conglomerate actually, so we can diversify the opportunities actually for our partners like functions and departments.
That was actually a good explanation because I was thinking, who is my client? I present to the business partner and I was thinking, are you presenting to the supply chain head or are you presenting? So GBS is also your client, I understand, and the full
Correct.
operation. But I have a different question regarding Celonis. So this is all process mining, how to make processes more efficient. Are you doing more, are you looking through more value creation from the Celonis? When I don't know how to read through the data to drive the cash flow, for example, right? So harmonizing payment terms, regionally, globally, what is the payment behavior of our customers and so on. So are you adding to your offering, when you present, hey, this is how much you are going to pay for the license, this is what we can do in terms of
Okay.
like creating business case, but not only from the efficiency perspective, but additional value creation, because I think, today we were talking about, how GBS needs to drive the value. That's what Romek was saying in the beginning, yeah? So that's
Absolutely.
the question.
Let me give you the two examples, and Jacek, you will complement, because first of all, how we work with the license, we are paying them, let's say, very easily with the benefits we have from the productivity on the spot, to be very honest. So this is, on one hand, the entry price is fairly high, but it pays back fairly quickly. On the other hand, this added value, etc. What we observe is the example like from the last week. The team who's working on the accrual process for R2R came to understand, let's say, okay, how we can set the threshold for the POs, actually, where we would require, let's say, approval, where we can let go, let's say, with the accrual in the end. right? So what we did actually, because we have AP module and so on, procurement, we have all POs. They did analysis within, I think, 3 hours, and they were able to actually propose to the business, okay, maybe threshold should be uplift because there's like a impact at the end. It's not so high, but making the accruals for all those POs is taking so much time, right? And the other example I wanted to raise, and maybe Jacek, you can take it from here, is about order to cash right now, because Znaleziony is also saying that the money are in order to cash, right? So what we are doing right now with the German market per se, so this is for GBS, but also on behalf of the GBS at the same time, we are digging in Germany order to cash process to show that, okay, there are the money are there, let's say, and try to find this revelation, something new you didn't know before, because everybody can expect the spaghetti in the end, right? Even in Germany, let's say. So we will I hope, let's say, that by the end of March, we'll prove that, okay, there is something more we can dig and scratch the surface, let's say, to discover this bigger value actually standing behind.
Yes, and Krzysztof mentioned order to cash. So in order to cash, we are currently working on 2 cases. One is order management, the other one is credit management. So for order management, we observed that a number of orders get blocked due to the stock shortage. So we are now running Znaleziony's analysis to see, like, what kind of orders are getting blocked and how to split our stock, how to distribute our stock in order to minimize the order blocks and the loss of revenue due to that. And in credit management, it is that we have a number of customers, and their credit history is changing very rapidly. A number of invoices they are paying on time or after time, and so this is very dynamic. And so Znaleziony can actually analyze that history, that payment history of a customer, and can either increase or decrease the risk. So can position, like, prioritize customers in terms of credit management.
And generally, using tools like Znaleziony, you can automate things. So you have the data, you have it online, so you can make and automate to sending automatically the email to indicate something.
This is our tax prediction case, actually.
And we are using Znaleziony, obviously, because I was just reflecting what we are using Znaleziony for as well. Yeah, but maybe one more question, because I think, we didn't touch the value, like creating the, how to address the bring in more money, cash, because we continue looking at inefficiencies in the process, right? So, what I'm saying is that, Znaleziony can provide different type of analysis for different things, and you can drive different activities outside of efficiency of the process to drive, free cash flow for the company. But I would have a question, when you did the process mining, did you, what we find sometimes difficult when you look at end-to-end process, not only the process, because there is a system process. When people touch the process, easy. Znaleziony can dig into, can put the spaghetti, lovely diagram. But what about the business process, right? So how people use, I don't know, Outlook, how many times they participate on the calls, right? What is really like a business process? Opportunities for efficiencies. Did you look into that?
Yes, and probably I should have explained that in the slide with the life cycle of the process. So you rightly said that a process has many faces, many variants. There is something that you can create and you can map based on the event logs, so something that comes out of a system like SAP or any other system. But there is a lot of work that is done outside the system. So people go to the browsers, they check something, they send emails, they make many things. Back in the days, we used to do value stream mapping, or we used to have workshop type exercises with people when they were providing input, and we were doing post-it notes and mapping the process that was not traceable through the system. Today we have a different technology which is complementary. I think value stream mapping still has a value, and it's still the right thing to do, but we also do task mining. So task mining is something that you can deploy and you can capture user behavior on their desktop. Of course, there are certain regulations and certain privacy criteria, and we consider that, but we still find it very useful. So with task mining, we can capture the gaps. So something that is not visible in the system, but something that has a big impact on how the process works.
I was told one last question. Thank you very much for a super interesting presentation.
My company is at the beginning of its journey with Celonis, somewhere where you probably were, somewhere in 2018, doing our first 2 proof of concepts with order to cash credit management and duplicate payments, exactly like you guys.
We can talk about duplicates, yeah.
So my question to you would be, I am the customer, so I am GBS. What should I pay special attention to? What pitfalls can I miss? What can I do to make this process maybe not a 5-year process, but maybe 3-year process?
Take PwC, yes. No, just joking. It's a very good question, actually. I don't know if I correctly answered.
Start from the process with the potential, yeah?
Yes.
To show the value. And then it will, you know, go.
And like Jacek was saying, start with the sponsor or stakeholder. I think this is the easiest way, actually. So if you have like a head of P2P or someone else like that, then start with that. Because if the head believes, he will also push through, right? And after the quarter, let's say, you can also evidence that duplicates are working or not working. Because I can also share more, maybe insider story of our duplicate checker, because we did POC for duplicate checker, but actually we realized that actually our robotics is better. And so we didn't go with that because it was not good enough for us. And our head of, let's say, P2P and controller said, okay, it's good, but it will take us even more work. We have better robots right now, so what's the point, right? So you need to balance this kind of benefits, but if you're starting like a greenfield, I would start from the top.
Yeah, and I think there are 2 important factors that I've mentioned before. So first is your senior management support and sponsorship. The message needs to go from the top of the organization. And it helps because in the beginning, there is a lot of enthusiasm. People like process mining, they want to learn about it, they want to do it. So we initially trained 300 people. In the first slide that Krzysztof presented, we show that we have 70 plus active users. So out of 300 people trained, only 70 of them are using Celonis on regular basis. So when this enthusiasm goes down, the message reinforced from the top level really helps to keep the momentum. So that's one thing. And the other thing would be capability development. And it's not only in terms of technology, but educating people and spreading the knowledge.
Good. I think that will generate more conversations in the hallways after this, yeah. Thanks, PMI team, PwC
Thank you very
team
much.
as well. Thank you very much. Great. Round of applause, please. Yeah.